and a race forever marked by time, measured in both decades and fractions of a second. This is pole weekend. Against this place and against the clock. Welcome to the moment when time stops. Welcome to Indianapolis 500 Pole Weekend.
It is a beautiful, sunny 59-degree day at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. Today, drivers lock in their starting spots for the 98th Indianapolis 500-mile race. You'll see it next Sunday, starting at this very hour, 11 a.m. Eastern, over on ABC. You see the qualification line down along pit lane as the first car rolls out onto the racetrack. Alan Bestwick, joined by the 98 Indy 500 winner Eddie Cheever and two-time runner-up Scott Goodyear. Temperatures this morning cool, so these first qualification runs that were supposed to start an hour ago delayed because they had to back up the morning warm-up and so on. When I left my hotel room this morning, it was all of 39 degrees. But it's supposed to be about 68 this afternoon, and there should be a great day for these time trial runs.
It'll definitely be a fast day. We had a fast day yesterday, and the weather obviously plays an important part in this, but right now these drivers are getting ready to do their final attempt.
And when you talk about weather, Eddie, the cooler weather means more speed. It takes the wing out of the car because the cooler weather creates downforce for these cars because of the underwing of the car. That's the bottom of the car. It creates the downforce, the suction down to the ground, so you can take some wing off so the car can still grip on the turn. It goes faster down the straight, and oh yeah, the turbochargers, they love cool air. So horsepower and lots of speed on the cars today.
So the format for this year, everybody made runs yesterday. You could make multiple runs if they wanted to. Some made as many as 4, trying to grab a spot in the top 9 who have a shot at pole position today. Everybody else, those times were wiped out today. They run in reverse order, 33rd to 10th. From yesterday's results, Buddy Lazier was 33rd fastest yesterday. He's the first one out. Today, this one run they get determines their starting position for the 500 next Sunday. Later, the Fast 9 will compete for those top 9 spots and for those coveted front row positions in the 500 next week. So the 1996 winner of the 500 is on the track.
And for a family-run program, Eddie, you know how this is because you ran your own team for a couple of years. This is a scenario where Buddy had won the Indianapolis 500, very competitive guy, won the championship, had won races. The family decided to step back so they could build up their business in Vail, Colorado, called Tivoli Lodge. So he'd been away from the racetrack for quite a few years. The family bought a car. They got some sponsorship together. He arrived here last year, back for a second run this year. And we all both know what it's like to be out of a car for a couple of races or half a season with an injury. But a few years is a difficult time to come back.
Yeah, but they have a great passion in this family. His dad was at the Indy 500. His brother raced. He won the Indy 500. I remember seeing his ugly mug in my mirrors the last 5 laps when I won in 1998. And of all the people I did not want to see behind me, it was Buddy, because he is a very tenacious competitor. But I could not do this. I would not want to do this, so I have an enormous amount of respect for doing it. He is very unique, but Buddy's different. Buddy lives in his own world, Buddy world, and I'll tell you what, he is one heck of a driver. And if he can get a car underneath him for the 500, he'll fight his way up. But unfortunately, you cannot just turn up in this series and say, hey, I'm here, give me a fast car. They just haven't had that many miles. So today, I suspect his times, he's running quicker than he was yesterday, but he's a guy that thinks always about the race, those last 10 laps of the race.
You see, buddy, he looks in great shape.
White
Is there a
flag,
difference
one more lap,
between
one
being
more
in
lap.
shape and being in racing shape for Indianapolis?
Totally different. They're two totally different things. One is between your ears. The other one is whether you'll run out of breath and you'll get tired looking at him. He looks like he's in better shape now than he was before. But you have to do miles. You have to get used to dealing with all that pressure. Unless you're like Scott. Scott was just nothing ever bothered
Jumped in
Scott.
and went.
Only one thing bothered Scott, and he's sitting next to him right
You?
now.
Yeah.
I was going to go down that road.
So checkered flag up for Buddy Lazier and the 1996 winner
Check the flag. Good job. Nice run.
across the Art of Bricks, and now we'll have to sit back and watch all the other times to figure out where he's going to start in the 500 next Sunday. Did pick up some speed from yesterday,
That's important. That's very important for him and his team.
and we'll see if that's an individual effort or a trend that we'll see on the part of everyone. If everyone's going to pick up speed from yesterday, I can't wait to see what the pole speed's going to be.
I'm
I'm glad that we're up here instead of down there if everybody's going to end up running 231, 232.
Yesterday was relentless. I mean, normally you prepare yourself the whole year to go do that one qualifying run. There were people that did 4 runs. Many did 3 runs. That's something you just don't get used to. That's putting everything on the line every lap, every corner. Otherwise, it's not worthwhile even to go out there. And yet, everybody did it. It's how times change.
One of 7 rookies in this year's 500 field. Martin Plowman on the racetrack now. A.J. Foyt Racing entry. Originally from England, as you saw, now living here in Indianapolis. Been doing so since 2009. Spent the last couple of years in sports cars, American Le Mans Series and the World Endurance Championship. Now ran the Grand Prix here last weekend on the Speedway Road Course and is out in his qualifying effort today to lock in a spot in the 500.
He's on a very steep learning curve. Every lap, every corner he does, he's putting all that data in his mind. And you go home at night and you sift through it all and you come back the next day a little bit wiser. But he has an ace up his sleeve, which is just hanging around A.J. Foyt. Just being around A.J. Foyt and hearing the stories that he tells you. There's a lot of nuggets there that a young driver can pick up. I remember the first time I turned up here, I saw A.J. sitting on the pits. I walked over there and I thought, I'm gonna finally get to ask him a question about racing. And I said, A.J., what's the trick around here? And he took a deep breath in his Texas drawl. He said,
Green.
keep turning left.
There are some tracks, as Plowman is on the green. I always remember Darlington from my NASCAR experiences, where what David Pearson did to succeed at Darlington 30 years ago still applies today behind the wheel of a car. Even though the speeds are greater, the cars are different, and so on. Darlington was a track where what you did behind the wheel hasn't changed. In an Indy car, is Indianapolis like that? What AJ did to succeed here years ago, still the basic principles of it apply to succeed today?
Don't you
Basics.
think so?
Yeah, basics, but the lines change because of roadsters going to cars that are now having downforce and the speed and everything like that. But, you know, like they say, Eddie, the racetrack never changes. So it's the same on both ends, they say occasionally. But it does drive a little bit different going into one that is the 3. Everybody will tell you that. They're not sure why. But, yes, the racetrack is absolutely the same. I think the cars have changed, so maybe the line has changed somewhat, maybe by a few feet. But, I mean, the principles are all the same.
But his question was about AJ. So AJ drove one. He was the last person to win in a roadster, I believe. And then he went through the whole downforce era. So I think in his, as far, whenever I talk to AJ, he always would go back in time and do exactly what you just said. He would pick up little things that were consistent throughout that. And the Unsers do the same thing. The Unser family has won 9 of these. And what do the Unsers always say? You know, don't get in a rush. Don't take your time. So there's lots of principles that apply to this place. This place is fast, and it will not only eat your lunch, it'll eat you and your lunch if you ever think you're going to rush through something.
So Plowman ran 2:27.043 for his 4-lap average yesterday. You see the numbers on his first 2 laps around the Speedway. Martin, very pleasant young man to talk to, bright smile, good conversation, very excited to be here, who wouldn't be, but really has epitomized to me in a conversation I had with him last weekend, the plight of many young drivers today is how to get that opportunity, how to get your shot at it, and then what you do with it when you're there to show people you belong.
That's the most important part, because they say opportunity sometimes only comes once. You have to make a great first impression not only from driving the car, getting along with the team, but also the knowledge of what you tell that you have felt on the racetrack to the engineers. It's the communication that you get with the engineers, because today, Eddie, that's what it's all about. Is he coming up now for his final lap, and looks like it's going to be another good lap at 2:28.5. Communication with the engineers, because I always say going around this racetrack, for instance, is 75% what the car will give you, and it's 25% what the driver will do behind the wheel.
That is 1.8 miles an hour faster than his average.
A big jump
yesterday.
But everybody comes in here with a different set of goals. His goal has to be, I have to finish my first 500. And that will be all AJ is asking him.
So Plowman heads back in. The second driver to qualify today, Rick DeBrule, is down on pit lane with the first driver who ran.
Not just first driver, but a former winner here at the Indianapolis Speedway. You went faster today than you did yesterday. Is the car better? Is the track better? What's the current situation for those other cars that are going out there?
Well, I wouldn't really want to tell them anyway, but, you know, I mean, unless they're teammates. But, no, it's we ran 2:29s this morning in practice, so we actually slowed down a little bit from this morning. But all in all, every time we're in the car, we have so few laps that we're going quicker and quicker. So it's a good thing for us.
All right, what's it like coming back and qualifying? Totally different format, a lot more qualifying runs, a lot more time spent on the edge. What's it like as a driver?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting for sure, and it'll change the way you approach qualifying for May. But I think it's entertaining, and I think the fans will probably really enjoy it. It's definitely a little bit harder on engineer and driver, but it's the same for everybody. So it's an exciting new formula. I think I like it.
All right. Former winner Buddy Lazier already in the field.
Alex Tagliani is on the track now. Just a few years ago was the fastest in qualifying for Sam Schmidt. Tagliani on the pole for the 2011 500-mile race. This season, he is driving for Sarah Fisher Hartman Racing and is out for his second qualification attempt of the weekend. Made one four-lap run yesterday.
That is a very good example of how important, as Scott has been saying, the car is when you come here. That year, Sam Schmidt's team had something special, and he executed so well during qualifying that he got the pole position. This is the same driver.
Fuel map 2, map 2.
Very similar car, just a different setup, and he really doesn't have a shot at pole.
Tagliani out in his sixth Indianapolis 500. Vince Welch is with us down on the grid. Vince.
And Alex Tagliani is a teammate to Joseph Newgarden, who's one of those members of the Fast 9 Club that we're going to see a little bit later today. And so they drive for Sarah Fisher Hartman Racing. Sarah Fisher, one of the fan favorites here. And Tagliani is as well, but they've struggled a little bit as a part-time team, and this being their first race here in the month of May, struggled a bit with the engineering setup and getting on the same page as far as driver and engineer is concerned. And Scott talked a little bit about that in regards to Martin Plowman and how important that is, but they feel like they've made big strides over the last day or so, so I'd look for a better run from Tagliani here.
Getting comfortable is so important, especially when you think about 500 miles. He told me yesterday that he spent a lot of time running in traffic trying to get the car ready for the 500-mile race. Now, there's this driver that's very versatile, because not only is he doing IndyCar here today and then also next weekend for the 500, but he's also running in endurance cars and also running in CASCAR Canada. So quite a mixture of cars that he's doing to compete in this year, and going to try and get the championship when he runs in that CASCAR series up in Canada.
Laps yesterday for Tagliani. 227.8 was his four-lap average. You see a couple of miles an hour above that now. Talking about maps, the multiple engine mapping options that are available to the drivers that they can change with the click of a button on the steering wheel.
8 different settings, and they're all a little bit different. They're certainly going to be running 100% fuel here, but in that opportunity, you get a chance just to sort of change how the mapping is for the car, in the sense of maybe how it's going to get onto the limiter. If he's getting close to the soft limiter, there's a soft limiter and a hard limiter here. And fifth and sixth gear is very important also, Eddie, just to make sure that you're not going to end up running on the limiter if you're running out of revs.
But that's not a decision that he is making. These cars have telemetry where they send all the information to the pits. Engineers are seeing it, and they're trying to get the most they can out of the engine and the car. And often we will hear the engineers tell the drivers in qualifying, make the cockpit changes. So they're directing the driver, but the actual team cannot make any changes on the car automatically. They have to be done by the driver.
229.148, the four-lap average for Alex Tagliani.
Nice run, nice run.
And that makes him the fastest of the drivers that have gone so far today. Down to Jamie Little.
Martin Plowman climbed out of the 41, first time here, one of 7 rookies in the field this year. Tell me about the difference from your run yesterday versus this morning with a little more wind.
Well, we made quite a few big changes overnight. Yesterday we were suffering with some pretty severe understeer, and then this morning we found the speed. But the conditions here change all the time, so we left the car from this morning to now not wanting to make anything drastic, and then we saw what the car had, but unfortunately just a bit too much push still, and we scrubbed the speed off. But you know, it's a decent effort, but now we've got to focus on the race car.
And of course, driving for AJ Foyt, you got out of the car and you walked over to him. What did he say after that run?
He was happy. He said good job, but you know, obviously for me, I always want to do better, and until I get on the pole one day, then that's what my goal is.
Nice work. I just can't imagine driving my first 500 for AJ Foyt, Alan.
Be both an honor and a pressure cooker at the same time. Martin Plowman.
The good thing with AJ is you always know where he stands.
Yes. Here is rookie number 2 of 7 that we'll see today, Carlos Huertas in Dale Coyne Racing's Honda powered entry. Huertas, the 22-year-old from Colombia, looking to make his first start in the Indianapolis 500, and symptomatic of a number of drivers, a number of these rookie drivers who have precious little oval track experience in their backgrounds.
I spoke with him on rookie orientation day, and when he got out of the car, you could just tell that he was taking in a lot, as rookies do. And I certainly remember when I was a rookie here, and I'm sure you do, that there's not only the speed.
Remember the bar if you need it.
There you go with the bar.
Information coming along to change the bar. That means they're seeing something in the pit lane that maybe has a little bit of understeer. The car won't turn as well, so change the rear bar, maybe stiffen it up. But for a rookie that comes here, there's so much going on. Not only the speed, but you're trying to hold your foot flat on the gas through the turns. You're looking at that windsock as you're going along the track to sort of decide what you're going to do with the car and how you're going to turn it into the turn. Today, I think it's a perfect day for speed. It's cool, it's crisp, there's absolutely no wind out there. The windsock is not even moving, so drivers can just concentrate on making the car as neutral as possible through the turn, which usually makes it fast.
You have to think if his motivation for coming to Indy came from seeing Montoya many years ago when he turned up and won his first
Asked him
Indy
that.
500.
He was watching it on TV.
There are so many Colombians this year. There are five. Which is that the most many country other than the United States that are here?
I have that list here. You give me a second, I'll look it up.
He's having a very clean run. Good speeds. 229.1.
Everybody's picked up speed. So as Alan said in the very first car that was out there with Buddy Lazier, is that just the one team that will find the speed, or everybody's finding speed? So I'm really excited about the Fast 9 qualifying to see if we're going to end up with speeds maybe in the 31 average, or is somebody going to see a 32?
But the approach for the Fast 9, I think, is different than what you're seeing here today. Today, everybody just wants to get into the field. They don't want to have any problems. They're going as fast as they can without taking too many risks. But those Fast 9 are going to jump into land in a place where they have not been. They have to really take a lot of risk, and it's going to make for a very interesting last 2 hours of qualifying.
England and Colombia, second most.
England and Colombia
together behind the United States in the 500 field.
1 lap to go. 1 lap.
Where's Canada falling at?
If you knew how poor my handwriting is, you know how difficult it is for me to look down through my own notes.
I really appreciate Alan, and I owe you one.
Is that a 2 or a 5? What is that on that paper anyway?
This is a very consistent run. He's taking everything he can out of this car, and he's coming up with a really good 4-lap average.
Checkered flag is up for Carlos Huertas.
Checkered flag.
And the 4-lap average, 229.251. That makes Huertas the fastest of the drivers that have run so far today, and puts him provisionally up on the inside of row number 4. Downstairs to Rick.
Yeah, standing by with Alex Tagliani, who just completed his run, and his wife Bronte. Let's talk about that run. Boy, you know, considering the fact that he hasn't run in a car all year long, he still got out of that car because he's a former pole winner, and he's like, dang it, I want to go faster. How come I'm losing time? Any idea where you're losing it on the track?
Well, first of all, I have to thank, the whole Sarah Fisher Hartman Racing for the opportunity, and also all the boys, like in the garage last night, worked really hard to prep the car for this morning, and it was quite good. I mean, the car was good this morning in the practice, and it feels like we're losing a ton of speed when we get the car ready to go qualifying somehow. And it's not the car. I think the car is fine. It's just like, like it's we're losing a gear, and we can't pull it somehow. So it's so fine details here that I guess it's going to be a little bit of data, and maybe we're going to find out what's going on.
Bronte, let's talk to you for a moment. How significant is this race for your husband? I mean, coming back, having not had a chance to run any other races, how important is the Indy 500 to him?
I think this is a huge deal for Alex, mainly because, he's been Rookie of the Year here. He had the pole, and, one left to go as the trifecta is the win. So, I mean, I know Alex is talking about qualifying and being a little bit disappointed, but I'm excited because the race is next weekend. It's a big deal.
And is it nerve-wracking for you having all these qualifying attempts and watching him go out each time?
Yeah, for sure, especially yesterday, with it not being as successful as we'd wanted. It's nervous every time they're on track.
All right, once again, Bronte and Alex Tagliani in the field, and that's what really matters. Alan?
Green flag, Oriol Servia. The 39-year-old veteran driver from Spain for Rahal Letterman Lanigan Racing. And looking to make his 6th Indy 500 start. Finished as high as 4th. And looking to see if he can find a little more speed today in this car. And Vince, I heard a little optimism out of this team. They might have found a little something in the morning warm-up.
Indeed, Alan. In fact, this team, and Servia in particular, has had so few laps on this car because of the rain. He's a part-time driver with this team. They hope to finish out the season with it, but the sponsorship not available as of yet. But Servia is one of those, as you said, finished 4th here just a couple of years ago. He believes that with this team, he can win this race. And he pointed out to me, hey, I was 29th yesterday, but just 2 miles per hour off of what Ed Carpenter was at number 1. And historically, you look back and there have been fields that have been separated by far greater amounts than 2 miles per hour. It's all about driving in traffic, and if you can get your car to handle in traffic, you can be a contender on race day. And Servia, despite the fact that he was just 29th yesterday, believes he can be a contender to win this race next week.
2:30 for his first lap, a tick slower on the second.
It's a good run. They've obviously picked up something, but I want to go back to what Vince said. I totally agree with his analysis of the race. This is just getting the cars into the field right now until we get to the Fast 9, but being comfortable in the car, knowing you can put it wherever you want, makes such a big difference for a driver, and they are close enough if they continue to do this good run to be within fighting distance.
I think the other thing too, from a driver's point of view for Graham Rahal, he now has another car in their stable with some more information that they can get. They can look at on the computer as Oriol comes down for the white flag for one more lap to go, because Graham has had some difficulty just with the setup, getting comfortable in the car, getting the speed out of the car so far this year at previous events. So here's an opportunity now for another car on track to get that information, like a lot of the other teams do that are successful. They have 2, 3, or 4 cars to get that information from the on-track ability for the car running out there.
Last corner.
And the checkered flag for Servia. And the numbers come up, 2:29.752. That makes him the fastest of those who've run today. Remember, we're running in inverted order from the way that they qualified yesterday. So it should get faster as we go, but you never know if somebody has an off run.
An off run, or if they found a bunch of speed overnight.
Yes. So Servia is done, and Jamie is down on the pit road with one of the drivers who just finished.
Carlos Huertas right now 11th on the board. A little bit different today. You guys had an engine issue yesterday. Did you find the issue, and how much better was it this time?
Yeah, it was much better. I think yesterday was difficult, and also we couldn't make the second attempt because we took a long time to change everything. So this morning felt better, and this run it also felt better. So you can always go faster, but at the end of the day, we're taking step by step, and the important thing is to be calm.
And you have a good engine. That's very important to Carlos Huertas right now, 11th. Let's go over to Doc Punch.
Well, you've heard of Fast Friday. Well, yesterday here might have been surprise Saturday for Ganassi Racing and Chip Ganassi's teams. Let me start with a good surprise. Congratulations on McMurray's win last night down in Charlotte.
Thanks, Jack. I really appreciate it, Jerry. It was a great night. You know, we had a difficult day here yesterday, and we hopped on our Cessna jet and we flew down to Charlotte last night. And Jamie, you know, there's something about it. He didn't used to like Charlotte, but he seemed to do well there, and he had a great night last night. Had some great racing there with Carl Edwards near the end, and I just want to thank everybody, everybody that makes that happen. The team down there, really proud of the guys.
You know, while you were on the jet down there, the engineers were working, burning the midnight oil, trying to get these guys we're looking at right now up to speed. That had to be the big surprise and shock of the day, that none of your 4 guys made the Fast 9. What was the issue? What did you unravel last night?
I'll tell you, Jerry, we were a little bit befuddled. I mean, we thought we were pretty good. You know, we feel like we have pretty good race cars, but we've been challenged the last few years here qualifying, quite honestly. We need to take a fresh look at what we're doing. And really, I mean, something has to change in terms of our approach to qualifying, because we're not getting it done here in qualifying.
Now, you guys went out this morning. Mike Hall, your managing team director, told me you found some things speed-wise. What do you expect today? What do you expect these guys to be quicker, or is it something you roll the dice here with in this session?
Well, it's always a roll of the dice. You know, you want to be the first out. You know, I think we're like 11th and 12th or something, and 9th, or we got a little ways to go yet before we go out. And you know, it's kind of a little different format this year. You only get one shot at it. You can't. You know, in prior years you had 1 or 2, 3 shots. Yesterday you had as many shots as you wanted to pick your pits and be in the Fast 9. But today you only get one shot. It's a do or die on one shot deal here.
Hey, Chip, thanks for your time. Congratulations last night. Good luck today.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Chip Ganassi, as we watch James Davison, the rookie, out for his qualifying run to see exactly where he will start next Sunday in the Indianapolis 500.
Ooh, you and I both are, as Chip was talking, you and I are cringing a little bit. The car's wiggling. He's down by the white line, trying to get as much out of the car as possible. And as a rookie, sometimes you don't know when it's going to bite you.
And it's really easy to get stuck in a pattern that doesn't work. And being underneath that white line as often as he is, you might want to try to get that out of your system before the race starts.
Because what's the saying about drivers?
There's 2 types of drivers.
Yep.
One that has already hit the wall and one that is going to hit the wall.
About 2, that's right.
Don't ever wish that on anybody.
Yep.
So the 4-lap average yesterday for Davison was 2:28.1. You see he's a little bit above that, but perhaps has not picked up as much speed as the others who have run, and the gap from what they ran yesterday to what they've run today. Davison, 27 years old, Melbourne, Australia native, now here in Indianapolis, 3rd-generation racer, and his first Indianapolis 500.
Check the flag.
And he's in.
And his heart rate's going, I'm sure. It would be for me. Now watch this. Coming through, looks maybe just a little bit high, keeps the wheel turned into it. Now when it just gets a little bit of wiggle beside the wall, that means that's coming from the middle of the turn out. The car's not settled. There's not a lot of downforce in the car in qualifying, Eddie, as you know. So as a driver, you feel that. And as a rookie, maybe you don't know that that's not supposed to happen. So as a rookie going around here, hopefully the team will go back and look at that video and say, we need to get rid of that so you can survive 500 miles.
And I know when you look at that in slow motion, it doesn't look like much, but just remember, he's doing 228 miles an hour. It's a lot.
Yes, it is.
Down to pit lane, and Rick.
Standing by with Oriel Servio, who just finished his qualifying run. This is a guy who almost is always smiling, but I tell you, when he got out of that car, he had a big smile, and the significance being that you said the car's working better. Why is that?
Well, you know, we worked really hard. We almost gained 2 miles from yesterday, and that's just credit to the work, you know, my mechanics, engineers put in the car. We knew we didn't have it yesterday, so we took a little bit of a bigger risk today. We worked in the car in the morning in the setup, and then we trimmed more than we ever did, and the car held there. And honestly, there's nothing like qualifying in this place when you're on the edge, but you know the car feels good. You just get a feeling that it's almost indescribable, but was a lot of fun.
All right, this is qualifying trim. What's it going to race like? Have you gone there at all? What do you think it's going to be like?
Well, that's honestly what's great about this new format, where we're going to have all day tomorrow to just practice race setup. We haven't had many laps this month, so I think we all need those laps to see how the car is going to work in traffic. But usually a setup that works well in qualifying, I mean, obviously you need a lot more downforce for the race, but the basic of the setup, if it works well today, should work well tomorrow.
All right, once again, Oriol Servia, finally a real big smile on that guy.
All right, Vince, thanks. Servia, the fastest of those that have run today. Pretty fast back in 1995 was Jacques Villeneuve, the race winner that season, who is back again for another try here at the Brickyard. But now, instead of being a young, fresh-faced racing kid, as he looked then, he's 43 years old, and it's been 19 years since he's raced in an Indy car here at Indianapolis. 19 years.
Yeah, and can I add, he's a Formula One champion, and his dad was one of the greatest drivers of all time that raced a Ferrari. This guy was created to drive a race car. I think it's great to see him back at Indy. He hasn't done that many laps. Their qualifying runs so far have not been brilliant, but I would definitely not discount him from having a very strong 500. Vince?
And just to add to that, Eddie, I spoke with Dave Higuera, who's managing this effort this month here at Indianapolis, and because of the fact that they're not running for the points championship or anything, it's a one-off for Jacques Villeneuve, that they are trimmed out a little bit more than they were yesterday, but he emphasized, we're not doing anything stupid today. We're all about the race next Sunday. So Jacques continues to get more and more comfortable with each lap, but certainly they're focused on just getting this car in the field safely and then going from there. And by the way, Jacques is one of 3 drivers who are doing something rather historic this month for the Indianapolis 500. 3 drivers who are attempting to win consecutive Indy 500s. That's right, Villeneuve has not been back since he won in 95. Montoya has not been back for the 500 since he won in 2000. And of course, Tony Kanaan is trying to defend his championship or his Indy 500 win from a year ago. It's the first time in the history of the Indianapolis 500 that there have ever been 3 drivers attempting to win consecutive Indy 500s.
Well, unfortunately, 2 of them, if it does happen, 2 of them are going to go home unhappy. Because there's no way all 3 of them go home with a smile.
Really, it's just, that illustrates how many great stories there are for the 500-mile race next Sunday and for this month of May.
Very calm, though, very smooth on the steering wheel. When I sat with him the other day, he said, when I first went out, I just had to drive around at 180, then 185, then 190, because I forgot how fast it was going around here. And so I'm sure when he starts the race here next week, it's going to be another refreshing of what he went through before.
2:28.949, the 4-lap average for Villeneuve, and tentatively puts him on the inside of row 5, but again, we're still very early in the qualifying process today. And a pickup for Jacques of about 0.8 of a mile an hour from yesterday. Jamie.
James Davison, 14th on the board right now. But what's really neat about your situation, your first time here, Al Unser Jr. is your driver coach. What kind of advice has he given you?
The biggest thing is really to treat this like it's an aeroplane, you know. We're driving at really high speeds, and if something's not right, you land the plane, you know, you come back in the pit lane. And just the very fine details. He's very good, not only with the driving, but the car setup numbers as well. And for our short program that we are running, he was very good to have with me. You know, I only did rookie orientation on Thursday, and yesterday went into qualifying with just that under my belt. So yeah, he's been great to have around.
It's been very quick for you. You've got to be a sponge. Like you said, you did 2 attempts yesterday. How much different was it this morning for you?
The wind was a little different, but the conditions have come to our gearing. But everybody else has gone a little bit quicker. We'll see how we stack up. Right now, you know, maybe, hopefully I can not be on the last row, but we're aware that it's all about the race, and we're focusing on that heavily. You know, we got limited miles on our engine we can run, so yeah, we'll be using them to get the car to handle well in traffic.
That has to be a lot on a rookie, Alan. As he mentioned, the short program means limited time in the seat.
Well, part of the program is understanding where you are, what your goals are, and then having the right plan of how to get there. And the short program for James Davison, as he described, it sounded to me like they had a good grip on what they're trying to do. So a weekend to go here in Indianapolis. Sebastian Saavedra in that 17 was the pole sitter for the road course race. The car failed on the start, and a huge crash resulted. He was hit first by Carlos Munoz, and then by Mikhail Aloshin in that 7 car. Fortunately, all of the drivers walked away, but look at the heavy, heavy damage to that race car.
And that car that you see right there is the one that he's qualifying right now. They took it all apart and rebuilt it. These chassis are so strong. Dallara done such a good job, and you have to give IndyCar credit for always trying to improve safety. They're always doing it, and that is a very good example of a rule well written.
So Saavedra trying to race for his grid position in the 500, Vince. We'll get back to Vince in a minute.
I will. There we go. Hey, as Eddie mentioned, this is the car that Saavedra had crashed in the Grand Prix, but I was talking with team owner Gary Peterson a little bit ago, and he made the comment that, yes, it's the same car, the tub was saved and they were able to rebuild it, but it's not the same fit and finish that they would have on this car for the Indianapolis 500 had it not been crashed in the Grand Prix. You know, teams spend months rubbing and massaging on these cars and getting it to fit, the parts to fit just perfectly together so it performs at its best aerodynamically and mechanically here on the 2.5 mile oval at Indianapolis. And he feels that's where they lost the most with that accident at the Grand Prix. The fit and finish just not quite where it would have been.
And the fit and finish, Alan, that he's talking about is the body work, the side pods, how the seams. You want to be able to close your eyes and put your hand and rub it all the way down the car and not feel anything that sticks out, because anything that is not meshing properly creates a little bit of drag. And if you do that all around the car, you could pick up or lose 1/4 mile. So that's obviously a disappointment for them, but he's on a very good pace.
And to put that into road cars, if you're driving down the road in your car and you got a lot of wind noise, it's not very aerodynamic. If you drive along and it's nice and quiet, then the car is going through the air very, very seamless.
Now, Saavedra yesterday ran a 4-lap average of 228.2. His 4-lap average today is going to be 228.0. So the first driver to slow down from Saturday to Sunday is Sebastian Saavedra.
And that could be two things. That could be the temperature that's going up, or they might not have made the gains that they were hoping for from yesterday.
And we're talking about 0.2 of a mile an hour. Over 10 miles is the difference between yesterday and today for Saavedra. Rick?
Standing by with Jacques Villeneuve, one of those 3 drivers we were talking about who has the ability to go for a consecutive Indy 500s. He hasn't been here since 1995 when he won. Let's talk about the driving experience. Obviously, the cars are very different from 1995, but from a driver's perspective, how different is it being on this track today?
Oh, it is very different, and mainly because the cars are different to drive. There's a little bit less power, more grip, so it's more momentum kind of driving, a little bit less on the edge. And obviously, I'm not part of the championship. I only do this race, so there's a little bit less pressure than 19 years ago.
All right, so let's talk about tomorrow. Tomorrow you get to start running on that race trim. How far away are you think from a good race setup?
We're happy with our setup. That's all we've done all week. We only started taking some wing off yesterday morning for quality, and this is the first time we really trimmed the car out for this run, which was a bit disappointing because we were a lot quicker this morning, and we lost about a mile, and we're not sure where, so we'll have to figure it out.
All right, well, you've got all day tomorrow to figure it out, and then next week to do the race. Jacques Villeneuve, former winner here at the Indy 500.
All right, Rick, thanks. And here is Pippa Mann on the racetrack now for her one and only attempt yesterday. Pippa originally from Ipswich, England, now here in Indianapolis. And made 3 different qualifying attempts here yesterday, and now has to go at it one more time.
I agree with her favorite food list. I love lasagna also.
Is that right? And you're fluent in Italian as well, correct?
I lived from 5 to 30 in Italy, and I have had my share of lasagna.
Al and I are looking at each other, and there's no further comment.
True. Sometimes you just have to let it go.
And the older you get, you wash it down with red wine, which even adds to the enjoyment. She is a lovely person. She has so much enthusiasm for racing. Every time you're around her, she's bubbling with the fact that she just loves being here, and I think it's great. She has a very steep learning curve. She doesn't do that many laps in these race cars, and she puts all of her effort into this event. And for what a great cause, Scott.
It's amazing because when you think about her just coming here, when we spoke to her the other day, Eddie, you talked about that enthusiasm, but overall, a girl that comes here once a year with so much enthusiasm from the standpoint for her fans and for her sponsors. Talked about being able to meet little kids the other day and how they had a car to cheer for that was out there that was pink. Alan, I think that was the neatest thing that she thought. And a little bit of a wiggle there going into the turn, so her speeds are getting up towards 229. Hopefully she wants to see a 230, but that looked like that might have been a little bit nervous.
This is a fast lap. She's on a good run. This is a very respectable run. She's done 2 laps in 229, dropped off a very little bit in her second. Like you said, a little bit of a wiggle. We have to put these wiggles in perspective for the people that are watching this on TV today. She's turning into the corners at 31 miles an hour and not lifting her foot from the throttle. So that wiggle that you see, she can feel it coming well before it gets there, because the car will either be nervous or pushing. So you have those parameters of that wall on the outside. You can't exactly let it drift up too close, and you have to try to correct it to keep it away from that. I think this is a very respectable run.
Now in a road car, when it doesn't feel very well, what do?
You bring it to the garage.
We take our foot off the gas. But here for speed, you don't get that opportunity. Today you get one chance to go out there to put 4 laps together. So last night, another sleepless night for drivers. The previous night, because you had to come and do all that work yesterday just to get in the field, that was a sleepless night. But
did you have problems sleeping when you were driving? You keep talking about sleepless
planning
nights.
and organizing and
go home and look at a bit of TV, have a glass of wine, and go to sleep. I hope it's not that much of a problem now. This is a very, very good run.
228.3 was the 4-lap average yesterday for Pippa. And let's see if it's a full mile an hour faster. Just about.
Just barely dipped into 228s. That team should be very proud of the improvements they have made. She will have a great day tomorrow running on full tanks, because that'll give her a lot of confidence.
So you see Carly 12th. 10th is the highest this group of drivers can be today, so that's 3rd fastest on the day of the drivers that have run for Pippa Mann. Sebastian Bourdais.
Fast,
but Indianapolis has been a source of frustration for Sebastian. When you look at the results in his times that he's been here.
You have 2 things that happen every year. One, there's an Indy 500 champion, and second, there's a champion of the series. He has won a lot of championships, but like Alan said, he has never quite gelled with this place. You and I spoke to him last year, and he was very unhappy with the balance of the car. I don't care who you are and what you've done, but when you come to this place, you will be humbled very quickly if you don't have a car that is A, fast, and B, gives you confidence. He is looking for confidence today.
Best finish for Bourdais here is 12th, way back in 2005. While Bourdais comes around to the green flag and completes his warm-up process, we check with Jamie.
Well, Alan, we heard Vince telling the story about Sebastian Saavedra, and that this is the very car that was in hundreds of pieces after the Grand Prix start last week. And you see the seams are all exposed, chipped paint. The team did a heck of a job, though, getting this car back together. But Sebastian, I heard your radio after that run. You said that was a disaster. Where do you feel like you guys missed it today?
I don't know, to be honest. We were pretty positive after yesterday's run. We did some big changes for today. We were expecting to get a little bit more speed out of it. And to be honest, I don't know what happened. We went out there. The car, it's pretty the same balance and 1 mile slower. Very disappointed for the amount of work that my guys have put into the car. You saw it, it's pretty scratchy. We knew we were not going to be top there, but at least something better than what we did. So back to the drawing board, I guess.
How is the car in race trim? I know you've had a little bit of time to run with it.
It's very good, actually. That's what gets us a little bit ahead. We, of course, wanted to start a little bit more forward, but it's a long race. You know, anything can happen. We just need to maintain focus, do a good strategy,
maintain our pace, and be there at the end. That's what matters. And I think we have the car to do it. So we need to focus for next week.
That's the upside. It has been a long month already for this 17 crew.
And right now, Jamie, if as we go in inverse order of yesterday's speeds, you think that people are going to continue to get faster as the day goes, Saavedra could be starting in the last row for the 500 and really have to focus on that racecraft and race strategy to get a good result next Sunday.
He is very lucky he did not get hurt in that Grand Prix.
Yes.
Very lucky. So I think he, if he starts in the last row, just smile and fight your way through.
You don't smile in the last row. I've started on the first row and I've started in the last row. You smile when you're in the first row. You don't smile when you're in the last row.
It's fun.
Where you really don't smile is when you go home and you don't get on the last row. That's the worst one to be on.
That's true. Yeah, but they have a great party when you're in the last row. I don't understand that. The front row parties, you know, a picture at the start and finish line and not much of a party at all. And then they have a party downtown for the last row. Where they
The
tell
last row
stories
has got much nicer people than the front row does.
Okay.
The front row people, they're serious about winning the race. The last row people, it's like,
Just happy.
Okay.
Bourdais is getting quicker and quicker every lap he does. Let's see what he does on this one. This is another good run.
Average 228.3 yesterday. Bourdais, the 4-time champion of the kart circuit, Champ Car Racing, 4 years straight, and then left for Formula One racing. Has been back since 2011.
And he won the Daytona 24 Hours this year.
Yep.
Hasn't done bad at Le Mans. This is a driver that can sit in just about anything and do very well. He just needs to get a good Indy 500 under his belt, but that was a very strong run.
229.847 for Bourdais. Again, he ran 228.3 yesterday. So Bourdais is fastest of those that have run today.
I'm dying to see what Kanaan does in the Ganassi team today, because yesterday it was one of those days that I'd like to be able to just erase it.
Well, the highest of the Ganassi cars yesterday was not as high as we have come to expect. And so here's the first one we'll see today. Tony Kanaan headed out for his warm-up lap. Down to Rick.
Standing by with the only woman who's qualified for this year's Indy 500, Pippa Mann. Congratulations. And you were saying that qualifying's almost been an afterthought for you. You've been working on something else all week.
Yeah, I've been spending a lot of time in traffic in the Susan G. Komen car. The first time we ran in clean air was actually yesterday. So, you know, I'm fairly happy with the speeds we put up on the board, but I'm really looking forward to race day.
All right, everybody has an important sponsor, but you guys have something that's really significant. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, this partnership with Susan G. Komen, it's a campaign this May through my race car to raise awareness and funding for them through the pink race card. So if anybody wants to join us, you can go to racewithpippa.com, and all of that money on the pledge site goes directly back to fund Susan G. Komen's work and research.
All right, once again, Pippa Mann, the only woman in the race, and she's already been working on race trim. She's ready for race day.
Well, last May, what a frantic finish to what had been a frantic race. A late restart. Tony Kanaan says, I'm going for broke. He powers his way to the front, and then a crash behind him brings out the caution flag. The race never restarts, and a hugely popular win for Tony Kanaan in the Indianapolis 500.
Well, and what can you say about that, other than it just hasn't quite worked out this year?
And that he's using a lot of road. Did you see how close he got to the wall on the entrance to the turn? So is this going to tell us that the car's not working well? He's got to use a lot of the road up, or is he just going to throw off a great speed?
What you can say about that is two things. One, that win is forever.
Yes, that's
but
true.
Two, racing is the ultimate "what have you done for me lately" sport.
As
and
of
here
today.
you are again.
And he was very frustrated yesterday, but obviously a strong team player. Has ingrained himself in the Ganassi team very well.
3 more laps.
Let's see what his time is. You can tell from the first time what the run's going to be like.
2:30.2.
They've made improvements.
And downstairs to Doc.
Yeah, frustrated, disappointed, shocked. You could use all those words for Tony Kanaan yesterday, the slowest of the four Ganassi drivers. Now, last night the engineers huddled for all the Ganassi teams, and I guess they all had the same issues. Chip Ganassi, Mike Hall said they were all battling the same problem, and that was forward bite. They said momentum is so critical here in 4 laps. The cars almost have to drive themselves when they are very aero-light, meaning you got the wings trimmed out, very little fuel on board. They worked most of the night to add downforce to these cars so they would drive in the corners, that these cars absolutely have to drive themselves so you can stay in the throttle and get the speeds up. This morning the speeds had come up. They thought Dixon would be 3rd overall under no toe laps, and Kanaan obviously much better than he was yesterday.
That's almost 2 miles an hour better than he was yesterday, Doc.
And also that speed there would have been fast enough to put him into the top 9 yesterday, which is exactly where they all thought they would be, which is exactly where none of them were.
He could break the record of the track today, and he's not going to get any better than 10th.
1 more lap.
It's the way it goes.
That's the way the rule was written. This is a good run. This is definitely a good run, a definite improvement. The car looks smooth. The lines are maybe a little bit high.
But you know something, Eddie, you've been there, I've been there before. You're going to now put the car away for the day going, I found something. You're going to sleep better at night. We brought that up again. And you're going to be looking forward to tomorrow, knowing that you might have a good car for race day.
The thing with Kanaan, if you put Kanaan close to somebody and he can hang with you, he will give you a hard time. And he won last year's race with that last restart. That last restart was phenomenal.
The silver paint scheme celebrating Target's 25th year together with Chip Ganassi Racing.
One thing to notice on this run, he went slower and slower every lap. In the end, started with a 2:30.2 and ended up with a 2:29.5. There was maybe a little bit too much of a drop-off.
So Kanaan fastest of those that have run today, and leaves him for the moment inside of row 4. Jamie?
Well, Sebastian Bourdais had quite a pickup over yesterday, and you got out of the car and high-fived, and you made this motion. How on edge was that car today?
It was pretty free. I mean, obviously, we're not going for the pole, so you're not risking it all, but it was pretty free. And it was 4 laps, staying on top of things. So, yeah, we, the guys got back to the truck yesterday, and they're like, gosh, we screwed something up here. So we tried to go back out last night and didn't work out, but we got that Mystic hydroxycut machine dialed in today, and it's definitely faster. So hopefully we keep on building momentum.
Tony just bumped you 1 position. Based on the cars coming up, where do you see yourself shaking out here in the lineup?
15th would be about where I usually end up here. So I mean, hopefully a little better than that. But there's a lot of fast cars coming, so it's probably going to be best case scenario at 15th probably.
Nice work for you and your team today. Alan?
Bourdais right now is inside of row number 4, but there are a lot of cars yet to go as Townsend Bell is on the clocks now. Veteran from California, spends part of his time these days racing sports cars, and spends part of his time with a TV headset on for our colleagues over at NBC Sports Network's coverage of the IndyCar Series. He's not in the booth talking about it this week, though. He's behind the wheel, and he is taking the green.
And a good-looking race car, too. I think it's different than what you usually see for race cars. I like it.
He is a very talented driver that has always gone particularly well at Indy. He doesn't do a lot of racing, but every time he comes here, at some point in the event, he's in the leading group. Doesn't tend to make a lot of mistakes. Very calm, very collected. The fans really enjoy interacting with him. I think he's a very interesting character.
Smart and patient. I think that's what you need around here when the car's not working. Work with the team, get those changes made in the car during the race, during pit stops, make the car better, and I think that's something that he does very well.
First one is a 2:29.1.
It's funny, there are just some drivers that have a feel for different styles of racing. The street course, the permanent road course, the oval, the high banked oval, or Indianapolis.
And
Some people just have a feel for the style of racing it takes to be successful here.
Yeah, we mentioned that the other day when we talked about guys like Rick Mears that just made themselves so famous on ovals, especially here in Indianapolis, but also guys like Ari Leindijk. You know, you and I came from road course backgrounds, Eddie, and Ari did, and got here, and just somebody that's just so super, super fast on oval.
I was a teammate of Ari, and I can say that Ari is crazy. Ari's just nuts. Well,
He was my first
I drive
teammate
around
when I
here
came.
with a grimace on my face the whole time, and I'm convinced he was laughing the whole way around as the car is skipping and sliding. And when he got out of it, he was just so euphoric. The fact that it was just so exciting. But I want to go back to what Alan was saying. When I started racing, I had obviously read about Indy, and there were two drivers that always impressed me for being incredibly brave. One was Jochen Rindt, a Formula One driver. Another one was Alan Jones, who I raced against in Formula One. Both incredibly brave. Both of them came here and said, well, I'm just not going to do that. And they were drivers that you would never, ever say they were lacking in courage, because what they did, they were always the ones that were on the limit. And this is just different. I think you have to, before you actually drive fast in this track, you have to be willing to deal with the consequences of your mistake or mechanical failure. And that's the hardest thing I had to get into my mind.
Because the consequences are it's very unforgiving.
There is no forgiveness in Indianapolis. This is a good run, very solid run, extremely consistent. Maybe the most consistent run we've seen today, which leads me to believe that he has a very strong race car, that they haven't trimmed out so much. There really is no reason to trim out for these cars that get up to the Fast 9. They'd have to get in the show, but I think he should be a happy camper with that.
That's about a half a mile an hour faster over the 4-lap average than Townsend Bell ran yesterday in the one run that he made here. You're talking about your former teammate, Mr. Leindijk?
I came
one
on the
4-lap records.
I have the race lap record for 2:36.1, which is not too far away from that. But Ari is unbelievable. Ari on a super speedway, he's just made for that.
Now, you look at the fast number that was run yesterday, 2:30.661, the 4-lap number there. Officials have discussed about working with the technical partners, the engine suppliers, and so on, to take a shot at making that record breakable in the near future.
Every record is breakable.
We're not far away.
We're not far away, and I think they'll get there. What they have to understand is what are the ramifications for the driver if something happens at that speed.
Something certainly that will be studied in the days, weeks, and months to come, but something to watch for as we get ready for next year. Graham Rahal's getting ready to go, and last year's winner is standing by with Rick.
Tony Kanaan got out of the car. I thought he'd be all happy. He was like, it was okay.
Yeah, I mean, it was okay. I mean, we definitely went a lot quicker than we did all weekend long. I know that's not going to hold for 10th, but you know, yesterday we struggled a lot. We found some speed today. Can give the Target Chip Ganassi boys big props today for that. But we have a good race car. That's what I'm looking for right now. Obviously, we couldn't make it to the Fast 9. To me, I started 12 last year, won the race, so I think, you know, I said that yesterday. By the time we get to next weekend, when we win this race, I don't think people are going to remember where we started it.
Right, you have to feel good, though. I mean, in terms of the progress you made, you feel like there's more you can come out for tomorrow to get ready for that race?
Actually, we have a very good race car, so I'm not concerned about that. Today, we did the best we could for qualifying, and that's all we did. And tomorrow is a completely different setup. I'm very confident with my car and being happy with my car all week, so we're going to have to pass some cars.
Well, Tony Kanaan ready to pass cars. More importantly, feels really good about his chances for winning this race. I'd say this is one very confident former winner.
I'm looking good.
Here is 19-year-old Sage Karam from Nazareth, Pennsylvania, the famed hometown of the Andretti clan, and youngster out here trying to qualify for the Indianapolis 500 before he's even graduated from high school.
Let me just say I'm seeing inconsistent lines right now. We were close to the wall going in. Now we're quite a ways away from the wall. Not being consistent right around the middle of the turn, the apex. So not sure if he's trying to overdrive the car or just not being smooth and consistent, but a little worrisome.
More on the youngster from Vince.
Halfway.
that I think there are a lot of reasons you could root for this young guy. As you mentioned, Alan, just 19 years old. He missed his prom last night because he was here at Indianapolis handling qualifications. And if you're maybe one of those fans that you can't quite pick out a driver to root for, but you like country music, maybe you go with this guy because one of his sponsors is Brantley Gilbert, country music star, and his labels, Big Machine Records and Comfort Revolution. So a lot of reasons to root for this guy, Sage Karam. I like the fact he's just 19 years old. I mean, just such a kid. Maybe he doesn't realize, guys, how much that car is wiggling around on the track.
Somehow, I don't think he's going to have a problem finding a date after having qualified for the 500. It just might make up for missing the prom.
To make up for the prom? Yeah. Let's see. If you gave me, when I was 18, 19 years old, the choice between...
Oh! I thought that was going to move the wall back by about half a foot.
Well, his recent date has been Gilles de Ferran's daughter. So, young Anna, who's a lovely young lady. But there's a difference here. You know, I'm not sure if you can change secrets between cars, because even though he's asking for advice, he drives a Chevrolet and Gilles with Honda. So, as you know, Gilles won the Indianapolis 500 here, and again, close to the wall.
19 years old.
Probably his engineers and his team owner will be glad to see the checkered flag.
Yes.
And he probably will be too.
That's a good point.
Got through it and qualified for the Indianapolis 500. I started to say, if I was 18, 19 years old and you gave me the choice of going to prom or taking a shot at qualifying for Indianapolis, I know which one I'd have picked, and it wouldn't have been the prom.
No, but my point was, after he is qualified for the Indy 500, that really isn't going to be that big of a problem.
I'll bet they can go have a nice dinner tonight.
Exactly.
Go figure what you were doing when you were 18, 19 years old. We're talking about 19 years between when Jacques Villeneuve won the Indianapolis 500 in 1995. Sage Karam was just barely born when Villeneuve won the race. And now they'll both be in the same field here next Sunday. Jamie?
Townsend Bell, look at this guy. The whole crew has this look going on, and you can't miss this race car and their design. Robert Graham, of course, is known for his out-there designs, very fun and festive. So, Townsend, I mean, does it help to look good? Does it help the speed in some way?
Oh, I sure hope it was helping a little more right now, but we've tried hard to look good. It's easy with Robert Graham. They're all about out with the old and in with the bold. Got every color under the rainbow represented, so we hope we've got a lot of fans out there. But wish we were a little quicker in qualifying trim. But really proud of the effort. We're a one-off effort, but we've got a great race car. We expect to be very strong on race day, and just love the way this thing looks.
All right, us too. Townsend Bell right now sitting 16th, Alan.
So Tony Kanaan, the fastest of the drivers that have run today. And here is Graham Rahal on the track now. We saw Graham have a couple of hold your breath or take in a breath quickly moments in one of his attempts yesterday. The son of the 1986 500-mile race winner. And the green flag.
Copy, green flag.
And he's underway.
We talked about Oriol Servia a little bit earlier, being a teammate now to Graham Rahal. So hopefully they saw a little information that they learned from Oriol being out on his run a little bit earlier, and they can transfer that over to Graham's car, and he can find some more speed.
Graham is very good on street courses, but this is the exact polar opposite of being on a street course. This is all like Villeneuve said about momentum and not scrubbing speed and having the right car setup. And to put it simply, what the engineers have to do is make you as fast as they can down the straightaway and allow you to go on the corners without lifting your foot off the throttle. And that's no mean feat.
Here then giving instructions on the radio for the engine mapping.
The timing of the radio to me was always important, so
For your tools, nice run here.
I don't mind in the backstretch right there, but when he was talking to him, once you pass the yard of bricks from the turn one, I'd rather not hear from anybody. I'm not sure what you thought at that point in time, but I could have done without somebody chatting in my ear because I probably wasn't really paying attention to what they were saying.
Look at all the buttons and dials on the steering wheel, not to mention the weight jackers that he can reach down for with his left hand, but all the different selections and messages and settings and so on that a driver can or might or must look at 230 miles an hour.
Well, you two, the 229.83, 229.82.
Use your tools here. Good consistent run.
You can't drive the car more precisely than those 2 laps that we just saw. That's impossible.
very, very consistent, Nick.
0.3 of a second difference in the lap time from his lap 1 run to the lap 2 run.
Important though, did you hear?
Last lap, keep going, nice smooth run here.
The car start to lose RPMs when it's coming off the turn. He drives into the middle, and right about now was when I was starting to hear some RPMs start to drain itself down. And usually to get a car to go quick around here, that's when you want the car neutral, or I used to always call it floating. And you talked about Ari Leindyke. When I came here in 1990, Ari Leindyke was my teammate and my coach. So he really taught me how to drive the car in and listen to the engine. So you really want the car to sort of accelerate coming out of the turn.
I think he has a bit of push in the car.
Yeah, and that's when you want to be, and that's probably why he's turning the wheel on the exit of the turn just to keep the car off the wall, and you're draining the engine speed down and draining your speed down.
Nice job.
4 laps in the 229s, 229, 628, and indeed back-to-back positions in the rundown for the Rahal, Letterman, Lanigan cars, Oriol Servia and Graham Rahal. Jamie?
Well, Sage Karam, the guy Vince was talking about, missed his prom last night to be here and be focused. You had one of those oh no moments on your 4th lap. What happened, Sage?
Yeah, no, we missed the car balance, I think, in qualifying. Definitely, we were faster yesterday than we were today, which is kind of surprising. Everybody went faster than they did, so for us, it's a little frustrating. It really is. I really wanted to be up there a lot higher on the grid, but it's a long race, and I think we've worked on the race car more than we have on the qualifying car, and I think, we should have spent a little bit more time working on the qualifying car. Like, we haven't really run a lot of laps, and I think that's what kind of contributed. We should have went out there and ran some more, but, that's all we got for it for now, but, we come out here tomorrow, and hopefully we can work on the race setup.
Well, the team is taking more of a conservative approach with you. You said you're not running a lot because they want to take care of the car, but how hard is that for you, for a rookie? You're like a colt chomping at the bit, and you just want to get out there.
Yeah, no, it's tough. I mean, any team owner really takes a chance on a rookie at this race, and it's if something bad happens here, it's usually pretty big and expensive. So, no, I get where they're coming from, but at the same time, I've been doing this for a bit, and I feel comfortable out there, and we need to run laps, and we're not going to win this race if we just sit in the garage and stuff. But I can't blame them. That they did awesome. The car's awesome. I think we have a really good race car, like I said. So just a bunch of variables.
Good news is you have a lot of practice coming up, Alan. Starting tomorrow, they can focus on the race.
Sage Karam.
Where he's really going to go out of practice, if he's lucky, is the Indy 500. That's where his practice is going to happen. Every lap he will do will be one more lap he's put in his head, in his library of things he's going to have to remember when he comes back again.
Green flag for Charlie Kimball, who you see has a couple of top 10s in the 500 and was the best Ganassi finisher last year, the winner at Mid-Ohio last summer for the IndyCar race there. Back to Sage Karam for just a minute. There was a driver who went to, and I know maybe some of the hardcore IndyCar people won't like my NASCAR analogy, but it is my background to this point. A driver went to Daytona, and for the first 5 years he was there, he never got past halfway in the race. And he finally ran the whole Daytona 500, and he popped out of the car, and I saw him the next week, and he said, I had no idea what went on and how much things changed in the second half of that race. And I suspect from talking to drivers that this one is like that too. Until you experience the full thing, the whole qualification process, the whole 500 miles, you may think you know what to expect, but you really don't.
There's nothing I can add to that. That was exactly as it is.
Charlie Kimball on the track, first lap in the 229s, Vince.
And speaking of maybe not knowing what to expect, Charlie Kimball and his girlfriend Kathleen are going to be getting married in September. And guess who is officiating that ceremony? Charlie's teammate, James Hinchcliffe. That's right. They asked Hinch to go online and get one of those, $25 degrees where you can actually officiate the wedding ceremony. And I said, why would you have Hinch officiate your wedding? And they said, we want it to be a good time. And when it comes down to a party, there's nobody better to have at your side than James Hinchcliffe. And so maybe a little bit of a light moment for this Ganassi team, which hasn't had much good to have on their side over the course of the past couple of days.
Well, I can certainly agree with that sentiment. It would be entertaining. Down into the 228s for Charlie. Yesterday ran 228.7 for his 4-lap average.
On his first lap, when we were on board there for a moment, his car was running really well. When he got to the middle of the turn, coming off, he had to take his foot off the gas and breathe it just a little bit. And I think that this car was starting to go towards a push or an understeer, and it continues to go just a little bit slower. We'll see what happens here in lap 4. But when a car starts to do that and you start to lose the front end and the tires start to go out from underneath you, it's tough to get back.
Dropped into the 228s for the 4-lap average. 228.953. Charlie Kimball right now shows in 18th position. Remember, the fastest that has run so far, Tony Kanaan, is 10th. Can start no higher than that.
I'm getting the feeling, looking at all of these cars qualified, that many of them are just trying to get through this without having any problems.
Wouldn't blame them at this point.
So all the real fireworks are going to start this afternoon when we start running for the pole with the fastest 9.
Let's check in with Rick.
Here with Graham Rahal, who said those last 2 laps were some of the hardest you've ever run at the Speedway. Why?
Just, I mean, you know, the way our car has gone the last couple of days, it gets pretty loose as the run goes on. And, you know, I think both cars, Oriol and myself, I think we had great improvement today to find that sort of speed. To be honest, I made a mistake. I should have run 6th gear. Didn't feel like it was quite pulling the gear, but it probably could have. So at the end of the day, really proud of my National Guard guys, because we had no clue. I mean, going into yesterday, we had no clue what to expect out of this car in qualifying trim. We hadn't even tried. And this morning, you know, we kind of threw a flyer at it a little bit. And, you know, as I said to my engineer last night, I'd throw some spaghetti at the wall and see if it sticks, and it did enough.
Enough. All right, let's talk about the race. You said you had no clue about qualifying. Do you have a better feeling for the race itself and how it will run?
Yeah, I think, you know, our qualifying car isn't all that different, you know, than a race car. So, you know, add some more downforce tomorrow, hopefully pound around, get some laps, got to work with Oriol, make sure we're running together. Obviously, we're going to start right together. So I think our race car is going to be pretty good. We just need to keep refining. We didn't get a lot of track time, as nobody did last week, but I felt like, you know, we were a little bit behind. And certainly what we came into with yesterday and today gives me a lot more confidence going forward. So tomorrow's a big day for us, really big one.
All right, more spaghetti at the wall. We'll see how it sticks.
I like that analogy. So as Graham Rahal goes back to talk it over with his team, Takuma Sato is on the track for A.J. Foyt Racing.
Came so close to winning this just a few years ago.
He did. Racing Dario Franchitti for the lead in the last lap.
Stuck his nose down and hesitated maybe for just that 1/10 of a second. And the rest is history. And Franchitti won his 3rd.
2:29.1, the first lap for Sato. He ran yesterday. We were interviewing A.J. Foyt before Sato came up, and no, actually together with Sato. And A.J. said, "It's up to me. That's one and done. I'll leave it up to the driver, but I think that's a good number. We'll leave it at that and put the car up for the day, not risk it anymore."
And guess what? They didn't run anymore that day.
That was in fact what they did.
Whoa! Now that is the record for coming close to the wall.
Haven't had anyone hit the wall yet in qualifying or crash, but that's the closest we've come.
Just cannot. The drivers are trained that under no condition with these cars are you allowed to take your foot off the throttle. If you do, it takes too long to get it back up to speed again. That's what Villeneuve meant by momentum. The engines are very efficient, but it takes a while to get them spooled up again to get back to that top speed.
And you can see that tracker dropping for Sato now down to 17th after that close call cost him some of that momentum.
And it is a 4-lap average.
White flag.
And he's glad it's the last lap. From having moments like that around here, that's the thing you want to do. You want to survive it.
You know what the hardest thing is after you do that is having to pick up the pieces and go into the next corner without taking your foot off the throttle, because you're not quite sure if something was wrong, if you've lost a tire. Or
you're arguing with yourself down to the next turn what you're going to do all the time.
The speeds have picked up each lap. That's what's interesting. Even with that hiccup.
I call it a depends moment.
Well, there you go.
Checker flag. Good job, buddy.
2:29.2, the 4-lap average for Takuma Sato, 16th.
I'd love to see that again on slow-mo. There we go.
Get your wish.
He's
Look
high.
how
He's
high
high.
he is.
Really high.
Whoa.
Oh, look at the dust.
200 and
probably 26.
26 miles an hour. So Dakar, he just didn't get it dragged down enough. And the arc wasn't maybe correct on the way in, so it just gets high there, creating dust because he's driving where nobody else has driven.
Well, got away with it and has the car in one piece. Good news for Takuma Sato. Jamie?
Charlie Kimball, well, you had higher expectations this morning, but you told me you guys kind of just went backwards. Where did you feel like you missed it today?
Yeah, I don't know. We worked on it pretty hard overnight. This morning's practice, the car felt good, and I felt like we found some speed. Looks like everyone else found a little more, unfortunately. So, you know, a lot of credit to the Novo Nordisk guys because we've got a really good race car. So wherever we start next weekend, it's a 500-mile race. You know, I last year spotted the field 40 laps and was at the back and a straightaway behind with an electrical issue, and we still finished top 10. So we got to try and qualify further up for sure, but we'll take wherever we start and make the most of it.
On a side note, James Hinchcliffe is going to officiate your wedding. How much fun is that going to be?
Well, I think my fiance is going to kill me for telling people that, but yeah, it's going to be good. You know, he's a good friend as well as a great competitor, so it should be interesting at the least.
It'll be a fun summer. Let's go over to Doc Punch.
Thank you, Jamie. Ryan Briscoe, the second of the Ganassi cars, out to qualify. And I spoke with Ryan just a moment ago before climbing in the car. He told me he really felt good after seeing what TK, Tony Kanaan, had done earlier in qualifying. He picked up a speed of almost 2 miles an hour. And he added, said yesterday, he said there was two kinds of grip. There's mechanical grip and aero grip. Yesterday we were trimmed as much as we could be trimmed in our aero grip and had no speed, just couldn't go anywhere. So last night, our engineers took a lot of mechanical grip out of the car. That's grip of the car just trying to grab the racetrack without the aid of the wind. It's getting warmer, though, so there were some concerns about the lack of mechanical grip, whether that would help the speed or hurt it.
Well, we'll see. He's on his first lap here, Doc. You see tracking 25th at the moment and was already reaching for that weight jacker on the backstretch of his first go.
When we talk about the temperature going up just a little bit, when it gets a little bit warmer, you lose a little downforce in these cars, and that's the force that's made through the nice, cool, crisp air on the underside of the cars, the under tray, as we like to call it. A little bit of lift possibly in the middle of the turn there. And so when it gets a little bit warmer, you have to compensate for that. So they might raise the wing angles just a little bit, Eddie, to sort of make the driver feel a little bit more comfortable in being able to stay flat through the turns. But when you do that, you lose the speed going down the straightaway. So there's a lot of calculations going on with the engineers in the trailer and also on the pit stands about what's the best thing to do, taking into account the temperature, humidity, track temperature, the wind. And the wind has picked up just a little bit right now. The windsock is coming from the east, going to the west. Drivers will look at that windsock going into the turn and then calculate exactly what they need to do with how they're going to turn the car in on the arc.
He might have been happy when he saw Kanaan's time, but he sure isn't happy looking at the time he has right now. Whatever Kanaan had, they didn't put it on his because this is not a good run.
There's the windsock.
And it really makes, that was the windsock which you were talking about, it really makes, at this point in the day, it makes very little difference. Everybody that we've talked to says they have a great race car, so somebody is either bluffing or somebody's got a really good race car, because they can't all be good.
No, because usually in the green flag lap, after you get about 4 or 5 laps underneath you and you hope the car settles down, it's either happiness or you go, what have you done to my car? So calling to the crew chief.
You can have a good feeling race car. It just might not be as fast as the other guy's good feeling race car.
Everybody today says that race car feels great.
And because there's nobody else in the track with them.
Well, we'll find out soon. I want to get to the Fast 9.
It's coming. Checkered flag for Ryan Briscoe.
Checkered flag, buddy.
The 4-lap average will be 2:28.713. He ran 2:28.8 yesterday. So Briscoe slowing down from yesterday to today, and the adjustments that they made to that car not working as they would have hoped.
You think these two have a few good stories, Foyt and Mr. Penske?
Without question.
Without question.
A lot of shared experience in their lives.
But
for
us
sure.
mortals are just not allowed to listen to stuff like that, are we?
All right, Rick.
Yeah, standing by with the driver for AJ Foyt, Takuma Sato just came in. Overall happy with the run, but we have to talk about that second lap. You came awful close to the wall. Take us through that lap. What happened?
Well, I mean, we try everything for it off, can do, and car's pretty much trimmed, and didn't have a really enough, the stability or grip, shall we say. So the car runs, quite free and going up high, but I mean, I had to keep it on throttle because it's qualified. I knew it's going to be very close, but I knew I can made it. So there you go, that's fine.
Now, we saw dust picking up. I mean, you don't have a lot of marbles out there because there's not a big race being run, but can you feel the grip going away? What do you feel like when you're that high?
When you go extremely close, yes, it did lose a little bit of stability, but really you need to set the car up, before entry, and the car was a little loose today, so I couldn't really ragging onto the car into the apex. That's why it's made a little bit, how can I say, long wide, yes.
Well, his qualifying is done, and the important thing to remember is that second lap was faster than the first.
And the other important thing to remember, he didn't hit the wall.
Maybe he should have tried that the next 2 laps.
I think his heart understood it.
That's a great driver. He really is a good driver. He's a good driver anywhere, in any circumstance, the dry and the wet and the oval, anywhere you want. And it must be so frustrating for him to replay that race where he was so close to winning, making a serious run at Franchitti and just not working out for him. So he will be fun to watch on Sunday.
Without question. Here is another one who could be fun to watch on Sunday. He's been fun to watch so far this rookie IndyCar season for Mikhail Aloshin, the 26-year-old from Moscow. First Russian driver to compete in IndyCar. He was a Formula Renault racing champ in Europe, was a Red Bull development driver, but had to make a choice, as many up-and-coming drivers do, the backing that he had for what it was going to get him. And the choice he made was to get an equipment he could compete to win races in. His dream was Formula One, but he had a chance to get in good equipment here in the United States. Sam Schmidt's racing team, Schmidt-Peterson Motorsports, and he's had pace and he's had speed so far this season, despite the steep learning curve.
And the team also says he's got great communication skills. He does feel a lot for what's going on with the car. And being in the team that he's with right now and having a driver like Simon Pagenaud as a teammate, and I spoke to Simon and he said, as a rookie, he goes, he's no rookie. He's very, very good, very talented, very fast. He goes very dedicated at the shop each and every day and working with the engineers, because not only is there a lot to learn about these cars, but a lot to learn about this country. Had never been to the United States before coming over here to compete. And so every track he goes to is a brand new racetrack, and every city he goes to is a brand new place for him.
I really like the fact that there are Russians right now watching one of their citizens racing at the Indianapolis 500. We're going to call this IndyCar diplomacy. What do they have? Panda diplomacy with China at one point? I think we might be watching something really important. He is very talented.
2:30 on that second lap.
Very aggressive, and that is a good run.
While we watch Aloshin make the third of his 4 laps, let's check downstairs with Vince.
Well, one of the fastest in qualifying yesterday is this guy, Kurt Busch. Unfortunately, he had to go to Charlotte to run in the All-Star race, so he didn't get an opportunity to really go for that Fast 9. Hey, give us a quick update on your schedule. When did you get back in town, and how did the morning warm-up go?
I flew in this morning, so 6 a.m. wake-up call, and Cessna's got me on a quick plane to get here so quick to be ready to do that warm-up this morning. We originally weren't going to do the warm-up, but I asked the crew, I said, just get me zoned back in with the IndyCar. That way, I go out here this afternoon, not cold turkey, and that way I'm prepared the best way that I can be, even though this morning's conditions aren't what they're going to be right now. But it's just an amazing feeling to have a Cup car ready to go and try to win with last night for $1 million, and then to be back up here to try to put her on the grid. I'm going against some tough company, It's Ryan Hunter-Ray and Juan Pablo Montoya. Hawksworth is quick. I mean, there's a lot of guys that are shooting for this 4th row. I wish we could have stayed yesterday and given a shot at the top 9. But, I thought the commitment needed to be with the Cup car and be there for the driver's meeting, so I didn't have to start in the back. And then it was all going to come down to if we had a loose lug nut. Which we had a loose lug nut.
Mikhail Aloshin just went 10th, and I know that's the spot ultimately you'd like to get. What's been the most challenging for you in the balance between going back and forth between here and Charlotte? And I know you've got to do it again yet as the week progresses.
When I got back in the Cup car last night, it took 20 laps. It took that first segment to settle back in, and that was a full-on race. And that race is very different than the 600 miles. The back and forth, just making sure I know which car it is and how to make those wheel inputs and throttle inputs.
Yeah, appreciate it, Kurt. Thanks for the time. Let's go to Jamie Little. Jamie.
And Scott Dixon is on the track right now. Meanwhile, Ryan Briscoe, you told me when you got out of the car, I wish I could go out again. What kind of changes would you do if you could?
I think we'd try to tighten the car up a little bit. I mean, I was really free, and we actually trimmed out a little extra. It wasn't a very efficient change, but we thought we were just trying to free the car up, and it got a bit too free, and I was really sort of sliding the rear tires a lot during the whole run there. I felt like for the run I did, I deserved a lot better because it was hard work out there, but not the speed we were hoping for. I was really hoping we'd get in the 230s and be qualifying, starting further up the grid. But you know, we know we've got it in the car. Tony did a great job. Hopefully Scott has a good run here, but the race cars felt really strong all week, and we'll change that over tonight and get some more practice in tomorrow. Hope for a good 500.
All right, let's see how his teammate does on track, Alan.
Scott Dixon out, having to follow up. Mikhail Aloshin running the fast laps of the day and taking over that 10th position on the 500 grid. Not just the fastest 4-lap average, but the single fastest lap of the day was set by Mikhail Aloshin. So 6 drivers to run in this Group 1 of qualifying. Then we'll begin to set up for the Fast 9, where the run for the pole position and those front row starting spots in the 500 happens. That's in a little while. First, these 6 drivers with Dixon trying to bounce back a little bit from the disappointing day yesterday that we've documented for all of the Chip Ganassi racing team.
231.
First lap in the 231s we've seen today.
Looks to me like Ganassi might have figured something out. Kanaan went quick, and Dixon is going even quicker.
The 2008 winner of the 500. And last year's IndyCar champ, Mike Hull, Dario Franchitti on the right there, watching to see if the fruits of their overnight engineering and strategy session might bear a little more payoff with this run from Dixon.
And Carr looks comfortable. He's not getting close to the wall in the exit.
High 230s.
Boy, they would have taken that yesterday, wouldn't they?
Oh, yeah. Well, redemption is a sweet thing, and they're redeeming themselves from yesterday for sure today.
I love that classic line, yeah.
236 in the straightaway.
Just nice. Down to only 27 in the middle of the turn. That's nice.
One more good lap here.
Another still in the high 230s for Scott Dixon.
Scott just makes it look easy, doesn't he? I mean, he looks like he's warming up. Same exact line, all 4 laps.
He is an onboard computer inside one of these race cars.
Yes, he is. He's the New Zealand version of an onboard computer. They have many great race car drivers that have come out of that country.
Well, this is going to be a good one. And 5 drivers are going to have a shot at beating it. But Scott Dixon, 4-lap average, 230.928 miles an hour. There's your new leader in this qualifying group.
There, Scott, average 230.92. Well done, man.
Scott Dixon, fastest of the day so far.
Target is back.
Doc?
Well, let's talk with Mike Hull. Mike, you said the engineers burned the midnight oil. A lot of concern. You felt good about what Dixon's going to run. And how much of a relief is this for you?
I think the relief is more the measure of progress. If those, I think they go together. Particularly, you know, what happens at Indy is we concentrate, as a race team, we've always concentrated so hard on the race. And we really, truly probably should concentrate on qualifying. We really don't. But when you get in a light aero load like we're in, the slightest mechanical change makes a big difference. We worked on that this morning for a bit in that 1 hour's time, and we gained quite a bit of knowledge there. we're a big team. We should be better than what we did yesterday, so we improved today.
And speaking of yesterday, that time a moment ago by Scott Dixon was faster than what Ed Carpenter ran yesterday. Imagine if they could have pulled this off in Saturday qualifying as he pulls down pit road to stop. Let's check out the record roll.
Yeah, we're here with Michael Aloshin, the guy who was 10th until Scott Dixon just knocked him off. He got out of the car and said those laps that he ran were on the edge. How hard was it to run that qualifying setup?
It was really hard because obviously the conditions are getting worse and worse. Yes, when it gets warmer and warmer. So the car was very good, and I think the team did a really good job on building this car to get to the limit, and that's where we got at the moment. Because seriously, a couple of times, maybe one, well, definitely there was 2 times I thought that I'm gonna lose it. Seriously, it was so much into the edge. But I still haven't left the throttle. I still kept the throttle. That's amazing feeling, seriously.
Let's talk about, you're a rookie here. I mean, what's it like to run at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway on an oval? You've never done oval racing with those walls so close. What does it do to a driver's mind?
That's definitely completely different to anything what I used to in Europe. Where the tracks has a lot of runoffs, and it's just different style. So to be fair with you, I like this a lot, because if you do a mistake, you're gonna hit the wall, and the speeds are incredible here. So it's so interesting. I really love it.
Aloshin, it's not a forgiving place, but so far it's been good to him.
And that is probably the first driver we've heard talk about, well, second, Ryan Briscoe not long ago, but then Aloshin there, talk about the edge and how hard they're pushing the limit in these 4 laps of qualifications today.
And when you push the limit like that, you actually have to forget there's a wall there. Because if you think about that wall and what happens if you get off that line, it's almost impossible to get. To know when you're at the edge, you have to go past the edge. You can't go too far past it, otherwise you can't catch it back. He looks like he's really enjoying this.
230.7 and 230.4 for Justin Wilson.
A bit of a surprise, Scott, to see him that far up, but I'm really glad to see his car running that well in qualifying. This is a guy that in the race does not know the word give up.
It's interesting because the speeds are fast and they're starting to slow down a little bit. And I looked at the warm-up speed here for Justin Wilson, as I have for quite a few other people, and his was around 228. And I've noticed the other guys that have gotten up there, and they've had that really fast warm-up speed. But I'm not sure that Will Power did that yesterday. I think that it was down around the 223, 225 area, and then he had his blistering laps. And there's been some talk down there with some of the guys, and Vince Welch and I were talking about this morning, that I wonder if doing a little slower warm-up lap, Eddie, saves your tires, so it's not going to start to fall off for those last couple of laps. That's what guys were talking about.
But one thing about his line, though, he's not using all of the road, which means he's very confident the car is extremely stable. He's doing what Castroneves did the other day by trying to do cover the least amount of distance. This lap it dropped down to 223.
And you know what happens with that? That means you're getting maybe a little bit of push.
Here's the checkered. Well, that's over.
So you turn the steering wheel just a little bit more. I love that.
If you didn't catch that radio, the guy said, there's the checkers, glad that's over. So Justin Wilson, second fastest on the day so far, 11th overall, 4-lap average, better than 230 miles an hour, 230.256. Juan Pablo Montoya headed out. Scott Dixon has just come back, Jamie.
A lot different demeanor today, more comfortable, happy, smiling. So Scott, tell us about that lap. The guys looked like it was so comfortable. How comfortable was it for you?
Well, it's never comfortable at Indy. You're doing 230 mile plus, but I really want to thank Team Target. We've been in a bit of a rut, I think, this week, and the cars have been really good in race trim. We've just struggled for straight out speed, and we've unfortunately had to try and reinvent the wheel and overnight to try and find the speed. So definitely TK and my car seem to speed up. Not sure what happened to Kimball and Briscoe, but it's a tough place, and I think the conventional stuff we were doing with the Target cars wasn't working. So we've started to think a little outside the box, and starting position is somewhat important in this place. You want to start as far up as you can, I think, but we'll keep working on race cars tomorrow. But it's a lovely day out here, and I've got the afternoon off now, so I can go spend some time with my kids and maybe relax a little bit this afternoon.
Great day so far for Scott Dixon, where they'll focus on race setup from here on out, Alan.
You see the speed for Dixon and Kanaan and what they've picked up from today. And as Scott mentioned, for Ryan Briscoe and Charlie Kimball, what they have not. And they'll go back and continue to huddle on that as they switch over to race trim and the practice runs they'll make here on Monday. So Juan Pablo Montoya yesterday made four lap qualification attempts in an attempt to be in that fast 9 and pick up speed. Here he is. I thought he made a lot of laps in the morning warm-up this morning as well, because every time I looked up, he was out there. Here he is for his final attempt at getting a spot as far up on the grid as he can.
You don't get another choice there. This is it. He sounded very frustrated yesterday. They keep making changes to the car, and he didn't seem to really go any better.
Well, when your teammates are both in the Fast 9 and you expected to be in the Fast 9, that's probably one of the reasons why. But he had another 2:29 warm-up lap, so we'll wait to see what his first lap is and if he can hang on to it for 4.
2:35 in the straightaway, turning into 1.
2:31.540 for Juan Pablo Montoya on his first lap.
So here's the thing. Will it stay underneath him for the next 3 laps? Or was a warm-up lap maybe just a little bit too quick and maybe took the highlight off the tires, as we like to say?
Fastest lap of the day so far for Juan Pablo Montoya.
He does get points for bravery. He always has through his career.
Let's see what he does again on the straightaway.
Okay, you're halfway there.
Good.
Another 2:31.
Lost a half a mile an hour, though, so that's interesting. You see a little wiggle coming out of the turn. That cost you just a little bit of speed, but just some stellar laps.
Well, this is convincing me that we're going to see some very, very fast times in the top 9. Castro Neves and Will Power are going to have quite a jolt of speed as they get into the fast 9. This is a very good run.
White flag, 1 to go.
2:30.8. And the 4-lap average still over 231 miles an hour. Montoya, the only driver in this year's field to compete here at the Speedway every year since 2000. Now think about that.
But
different type of car, right? 3 different types of cars.
Whoa!
Whoa!
Okay. Yep, not taking my foot off the gas, am I?
There we go.
The fastest single official lap of the weekend.
Right, checker flag, good job, Biden. Take it easy coming in.
And the first average over 231 miles an hour for 4 laps on the day, Juan Pablo Montoya.
And the captain saying that's why I hired the guy.
Exactly. He's the one that made the decision. He's the one that put him in the car.
So Montoya is done. 3 drivers left in this Group 1 qualifying. The highest they can start, the inside of row number 4. For the moment, that's Montoya. Justin Wilson is going to start on the outside of row 4 for the moment.
Yeah, standing by with Justin Wilson. We're starting to hear similar stories from a lot of the drivers getting out of the car, talking about being on the edge. Explain how you were just explaining to me, it was a 4-wheel drift at points for you.
Yeah, I mean, you go down into turn 1 and you turn in on that first lap and the car sticks and everything's great. And then just towards the end of the corners, you get exiting out towards the wall, you just feel it slide a little bit. And that's turn 1, lap 1. By the time we got to turn 1, lap 3, lap 4, you turn in, and before you even get down to the bottom, the whole car's sliding, using up all the racetrack. And now you're wondering, how am I going to get through the next corner? Because every corner is just progressively getting worse as you're abusing our Firestone tires because of how little downforce we're running. So. Just got to thank everyone at Delcoin Racing. They've done a great job. Honda and Firestone giving us great products. So hopefully we've got a good car. We'll do a few more things tomorrow in testing and come back next week.
How scary is that as a driver when you're starting to reach that point where all 4 wheels are drifting and you're doing 230 miles an hour?
Well, you're starting to wonder, how long will this stick? How long can I push this? And at the same time, as you're sliding, we actually lost a little bit of speed every lap we did because we were sliding too much. So, but you're definitely starting to second guess yourself as you're going down the back straight into turn 3. Do I lift or do I keep my foot in it? It's qualifying for the Indy 500, so of course keep your foot in it, but it's plenty of time to think about it.
Well, Justin Wilson kept his foot in it. That's a pretty good position out on the qualifying grid right now, Alan.
Wilson third fastest on the day. And here is Jack Hawksworth, the rookie from England, driving for Brian Herta Autosports. Just his 5th IndyCar start, his first on an oval in an IndyCar. He's been very impressive and very fast through the weekend so far.
Very fast and very impressive everywhere on the street circuits here at Indianapolis. And you know, if he does a 2:31, we wouldn't be shocked at this point.
Perfect.
2:30.8 for Hawksworth. Even more impressive, the fact that he had wall contact. He had a crash in practice here earlier in the week and didn't seem to unnerve him any. They put the car back together, came right back out, and got right back up to speed.
And drives for a small team, not a multi-car team with a big multi-billion-dollar budget. And so for this guy right now to come over here and compete, and he's been competing over here for a couple of years in the Road to Indy Series. He's done a great job, but that warm-up was around 2:24, so nice to see that he had that 2:30 the very first lap. Let's see what the second lap is. Again, just a little bit quicker. He might even sneak out a 2:31 here by the time he gets to the third or fourth lap.
Let's check in with Doc.
It's an amazing story of sacrifice for Jack Hawksworth. He walked away from a promising professional soccer career in England. His dad has a small motorcycle repair shop in a small village in England. His mom's a school teacher. The dad sold the family car to buy their son a plane ticket to come here. He lives in a one-room extended stay hotel here in town. He is simply chasing his dream, and he knows that this is his chance, his one and only chance to make it. It's been all about sacrifice. All about sacrifice.
Apologize for Doc's mic cutting out. Whoa, the big wiggle there.
Well, that was an early wiggle. That one started way before he got to the wall.
That means the car wants to be loose in the middle of the turn. It's rotated just a bit too much, and your car is floating, and now you're trying to convince yourself it will be okay for the next 2 turns. Only 2 more turns.
Once he gets through 3, he should be okay.
Tracking a bit slower than Montoya and Dixon, but certainly closer to the front of the grid than the back for the starting position of his first Indianapolis 500-mile race. Jack Hawksworth, 230.506 miles an hour, third fastest on the day. Two drivers to go. Ryan Hunter-Reay was at the end of the Fast 9 yesterday, right at the end of the time limit for qualifying. The team had to pull him out of line and withdraw his time from yesterday to try and take a crack at getting back into the Fast 9. It didn't work out. Now Hunter-Reay, the farthest up he can start the 500, is in 10th position depending on the outcome of his run here.
Now we're watching Jack Hawksworth in through the turn.
Now it starts here.
And it's right in the middle. The car's already feeling light, and then you think you're okay, but that's when the back end of the car just starts that wiggle. And as you mentioned before, Eddie, that wiggle, oh, that's about
the biggest mistake you can make here is to start correcting. He didn't. He kept the steering wheel, let the car track where it wanted to. If you start to correct, it hooks up and goes straight up the wall into the wall.
So Hawksworth safely back in, and as Hunter-Reay does his warm-up lap, we check with Jamie.
Juan Pablo Montoya is still reeling from that 4-lap average, the one and only today over 231 miles per hour, but you've been very animated. What happened on your lap?
Just, started getting a lot of oversteer in the car, and, rear started sliding more and more and more, and I tried to compensate for it, and then I created too much understeer, and I moved the bar, and became a handful there. I went into turn 3, I said, nice and big arc, and started turning down. I can't turn out because oversteer, I'm going to run out of room. And just keep it in and hope it sticks.
Internal conversation with yourself. Now, the one and only time you ran here at Indy was for Chip Ganassi, and you won the race. What is it like to be here driving for Roger Penske, a 15-time winner here?
It's really special. It's amazing. Being with Verizon and Team Penske here, that opportunity, I think it's a dream for anybody. We want to make him really proud.
Well, so far, so good. Juan Pablo Montoya, fastest on the day.
And what I loved about that interview, Jamie, the smile and the animation on Montoya there. What a trip it must have been around the speedway for him.
What a difference one evening makes.
Yeah.
Yesterday he was sulking and angry, and today he's back on the top of the world.
So Ryan Hunter-Reay, the 2012 Verizon IndyCar Series champ, Fort Lauderdale, Florida native, Fort Lauderdale, Florida resident, 33 years old. 229.7 on his first lap driving for Andretti Autosport. Hunter-Reay, one of the drivers in the hunt for the series championship through the opening quartet of races. He is...
Try downshifting to 5th into 3. Downshift to 5th into 3.
That's not a good thing. They're telling him he's not accelerating enough coming out in 6th gear, so he has to downshift coming out or going into 3.
Yeah, and the other side too is that maybe he's just making the car bind itself up too much through the turns, so that won't pull 6th gear coming out of the turns also down the straight. So that's it's unfortunate, and certainly not the speeds I'm sure that he was thinking, because yesterday he was in the 229.899 range. So
he's close to that, except today's a faster day. And everybody else.
Yeah.
We've had 4 drivers get out of their car and complain of exactly the same thing, that they're losing rear grip with the tires at the end of their run. And we've seen it with those big wiggles and slides that they have. His car is not doing that.
And while we watch Hunter-Reay finish his run, we check in with the young man who just came off the track.
I always love the understatement of race car drivers. Yeah, that was a bit of a moment. That was one heck of a moment at 230 miles an hour. Explain what was happening when we saw that wiggle.
Yeah, we ran the first 3 laps, and I mean the car was good. I mean the guy's position, unbelievable job to say where what happened earlier in the week, and Jimmy's a great car, but we were a little bit free, and the opening few laps was he was underneath me, but I could tell that it was kind of there. But at the same time, I knew it was pretty close to try and get. I know Scott had run like a 9 average, and I was on 9, so I had to keep pushing, and he just started to come out a little bit at the end through one, but managed to save it, and on to the next one. So good job to the team. Thanks to all the sponsors. Just good solid day. Shame we couldn't be a bit higher up, but we'll take that after the week we've had. So it's good.
Jack Hawkworth has impressed a lot of people this week, and saving that impressed even more.
Ryan Hunter-Reay finishing his 4-lap run. You see 18th, averaging 229.719. And then there was one left to go in this first qualifying group. Kurt Busch, can he unseat Juan Pablo Montoya for that 10th starting spot in the 500? Where will he end up? Don't forget our coverage of the Fast 9 and the run for the pole goes over to ABC at the top of the hour. We'll have the final qualifying runs for this year's 500 and see what kind of drama may play out in those last 9 runs. That's over on ABC coming up at the top of the hour. Well, what a story. Kurt Busch, NASCAR champion from 2004, made his 2 attempts at qualification yesterday here at Indianapolis, then went off to Charlotte last night, ran the NASCAR All-Star race there. Then back here to Indianapolis for this final qualification run today, a practice tomorrow, and then of course next weekend shuffling back and forth with the practice and qualifying in Charlotte and the Indianapolis 500 here off to Charlotte for NASCAR's longest race, the Coca-Cola 600.
That's an awful lot of driving, 2 totally different cars and 2 totally different series. I'm amazed that he would even attempt to do that. And the fact that he's putting all of his heritage on the line here to compete against the best that IndyCar has to offer is truly an amazing feat.
Now, his Andretti Autosport teammate, Ryan Hunter-Reay, just ran slower than he did yesterday. So whether they've hit the setup properly or not for today's conditions, we'll have to find out.
Well, I'm going to guess that he might be similar to Ryan Hunter-Reay, because once your car is in the qualifying line, you can no longer make any adjustments, whether it's tire pressures, as he takes the green flag, tire pressures or wing angles. So if he's got what Ryan Hunter-Reay had, he might struggle. Did his engineers and him decide to go somewhere different? We'll find out after the first lap.
He was 2:36 turning into turn 1, which is probably the fastest time we've seen so far. As he goes in the back straight. 2:35. If he can keep those high speed around both ends of the corner, he should be, the track, he should be good.
Low of 227. That's good.
Good lap. Checker if you need it. Lap 1 complete.
230.9 for Kurt Busch on his first lap. That looked a little unsteady there.
Now we have to look at the exit of 1 and the exit of 3 to see if the same thing that happened to the other fast drivers where the back end starts to slide. We are right on the limit of these cars. Everybody has tuned all the downforce they can out of him, and we'll see how his run progresses.
And you're arguing with yourself every time you go down to turn 1, turn 3, after 2 long straights about how the car is going to work for you and how much confidence you have of not taking your foot off the gas.
You know, it's amazing. The last time he was in a car was not many hours ago, and it was a Cup car. Now he's jumping into this car.
Another in the 230s, 230.7. No matter how this turns out, you see he's tracking 12th right now behind Montoya and Dixon. Kurt Busch has acquitted himself very well this weekend.
I think way better than anybody would have thought he could have.
Yeah, and the car's changing on him because he was so low going into 3 that time. That's the thing he's got to be working with, all the tools inside the car, the weight jacker and the roll bars, and just make sure he's chasing the car to the track conditions.
This is going to be another 230 lap.
230.7. 4 more corners to go.
I think his heart's racing right now.
Is that a question or a statement?
Oh, I know it is. As you know, because you've qualified
Coming through the checker.
over 230 at this
One
place
more
here,
tough
like I
corner.
have. It's just, you're working very hard right now.
Once you get past 3, 4 is not that big of an issue on your last.
No, it's not that big of an issue at 227. Okay.
The run is done.
Checkered flag.
230.782 miles an hour, the 4-lap average for Kurt Busch. He will start the Indianapolis 500 from the outside of row number 4. So that's positions 10 through 33. Top of the hour, we begin our coverage of the Fast 9 and the run for the pole over on ABC. Join us over there at the top of the hour. Juan Pablo Montoya, the fastest of the first session.